Well, 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 should I be surprised? Probably not, but am I surprised? Yeah, a little bit. We had this news earlier this morning from a whole bunch of media outlets that Vancouver Canucks defenseman Carson Soucy will have a phone hearing with the NHL's Department of Player Safety for cross-checking Connor McDavid, while Nikita Zadorov has been fined $5,000 for cross-checking that same Connor McDavid. And as you can see here in the image, there was a pretty big scrum that happened after the Canucks and the Oilers game. Now, look, I was kind of looking at this with sort of a timeline in my mind. I was saying, okay, what happened in the events leading up to this particular moment where Carson Soucy ended up cross-checking Connor McDavid right in the jugular? Well, the video, if you go out there and watch it, shows off that Connor McDavid actually did give a two-handed swing after Carson Soucy and them started shoving behind the net. Connor McDavid made the pass to Evan Bouchard at the end of the game. Bouchard took the shot. Silovs made the save. But as you can see right here, oh, by the way, thank you so much, Cowie, for your subscription. I just caught that right there. But Connor McDavid and Soucy ended up shoving each other a little bit after. Soucy shoves McDavid. McDavid then gives a two-handed slash right to the side of Soucy, and that is when the cross-checks come here. Zadorov cross-checks McDavid in the back. Connor McDavid falls down, and while Connor McDavid is falling down, that is when Soucy delivers the cross-check to the face. But honestly, from the way you're seeing it, everything happens too fast to note that Carson Soucy was quote-unquote aiming for McDavid's face. I think a lot of people sort of rationalized and said, okay, if Zadorov didn't cross-check McDavid in the back, then Soucy would not have cross-checked McDavid in the face. Soucy was kind of going for the chest area, but because McDavid was already falling down, that's why it caught him up high. And everything sort of happened afterwards. You can see Zach Hyman was in the fray as well. He ended up cross-checking Nikita Zadorov up high at the very same moment. And according to the Rick Tocchet press conference, he mentioned that the league had a couple of things to look at, including a Zach Hyman cross-check. Has to be this one below. I'm told that Zadorov needed stitches to close up a cut on his face. And this video shows it a little bit better. You can sort of see here. This is Zach Hyman on the side there. And then he rifles one right into the face of Nikita Zadorov. So we had multiple things going on here. First, Soucy pushes McDavid. McDavid two-hand slashes Soucy. Zadorov then cross-checks McDavid. Soucy cross-checks McDavid. And then you had Zach Hyman cross-checking Zadorov. A whole bunch of stuff going on after the game. And if you want to see the conclusion as to everything that happened here, Carson Soucy said earlier this morning that he has had his hearing already and is waiting for a ruling from the NHL. He called it an unfortunate incident due to the timing, and there was no intent to catch McDavid up high. And honestly, yeah, I believe that, considering he was kind of aiming for that chest area. He only got him high because Zadorov pushed McDavid down. But as the NHL Department of Player Safety goes out there and says, Carson Soucy has officially been suspended one playoff game. Vancouver Canucks D-man Soucy is suspended one playoff game for cross-checking against Oilers forward Connor McDavid. And, you know, I could already kind of hear the Canucks fans complaining about this moment and talking about how there's not really an even justification of punishment to the stuff that happened here. Sure, I can agree with there being some sort of a disciplinary tact here for the NHL and Carson Soucy. This was a pretty vicious cross-check, but at the same time, it's all about consistency. Where's the hearing for Zach Hyman? He cut Zadorov in the same area, you could say, and the catch is Zadorov wasn't falling down like McDavid was. Zach Hyman, you could say, arguably did the same thing, if not maybe even worse, because he literally aimed up high. Is that because Zadorov is tall? Because he's a bigger dude, there's no punishment for the guy that tried to cross-check him and ended up causing him to bleed, quote-unquote? There's got to be some consistency here, and unfortunately, we have not had much of that throughout this entire postseason. They've been very poorly officiated, these games here, and I'm not even talking about, like, the calls or anything. We've spoken about this yesterday in the post-game video, but say what you want about the Darnell Nurse penalty that was called in this game, say what you want about some of the non-calls that were sliding in this one, but the Oilers had 2 third-period power plays, so the referees were doing their part in equalizing things up and giving the Oilers a fair chance to come back, but the Oilers did not score in their 2 power plays in the third period. One of them they had no shots on. So, refereeing aside, the Oilers had themselves a really good opportunity to bounce back in this game and potentially make the comeback, but they did not. The consistency has not been there, but I'm not going to complain too much about the referees because, the Canucks won. But here, I'm kind of thinking, like cross-checking, sure, Zadorov gets the fine because it's in the back, but Soucy, the reason this is a suspension is because Soucy caught him in a position where McDavid was falling. If it was just normal and Soucy caught him normally, this would not be a suspension. So we'll see what happens later on in game number 4 tomorrow. I would expect that Noah Juulsen breaks into the Vancouver Canucks lineup with Soucy out. You're probably looking at D pairings that look like Hughes, Hronek, maybe Myers and Cole. They're probably going to stick together, right? And then Juulsen, Zadorov, if you wanted to say that, or flip them because they're on different sides, excuse me. Noah Juulsen, I'm not too sure how confident I am in him to be able to play in the playoffs at this time, but Carson Soucy, he was pretty alright in Game 3 yesterday. I thought he played pretty well. It's just going to be unfortunate to lose him out for one game. I'm kind of thankful, at least, that it is only one game. I feel like because of the damage to Connor McDavid in particular, he caught him in a really bad spot, I'm not going to lie. I could have seen this going a little bit higher in terms of a suspensionable number, just because the NHL refereeing and discipline committee has been so inconsistent this year. It opens the door for doubt to creep in, right? But at the end of the day, that's Carson Soucy for you. He's suspended. Nikita Zadorov has a $5,000 fine. Apparently there's nothing going on to Zach Hyman, which is kind of nuts considering he did that to Nikita Zadorov right in the top of your screen there. And even here in the video with Dan Murphy, he gets him right in the chin, it looks like. Yeah, no. That has to be it, right? No consistency whatsoever. Carson Soucy is suspended. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below about where the Canucks go from here, how they bounce back, and any extra thoughts you have in regards to this incident at the end of the game. There was a bunch of stuff leading up to it. It's not a completely innocuous situation for McDavid. I don't want to act like, McDavid was just kind of there. He didn't do anything to deserve this. No, he was in a shoving match with Soucy. Sure, Soucy shoved first, but he two-hand whacked on the guy's leg. That's not allowed either. So, thoughts in the comments section below about this entire situation, the Soucy suspension for one game, and of course, what are your thoughts on Noah Juulsen potentially breaking into the lineup? Is it even Juulsen? Do they go with Mark Friedman instead? You know how Mark Friedman was on that power play unit with Sedin, Tocchet, and Gonchar, right? So maybe they give the edge to him. Who knows? He's got some experience playing with some superstar top caliber players, but yeah, there's a lot of options here for the Canucks in terms of the game tomorrow, in terms of their lineup. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section about that as well, because I think it opens the door to a pretty good conversation about the depth of the Canucks D. We already saw their forwards look pretty good. Honestly, Linus Karlsson, Niels Åman, I was a really big fan of them in yesterday's game with PDG and Höglander out, but now with Carson Soucy out, do we see a similar kind of effect with Juulsen? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about that. And everything else, I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.